All right, guys, welcome back to Tar Heel 24/7. I'm Jacob Turner, and we are here for a special season prediction roundtable podcast. And we have really brought out the heavy hitters today. We got Seth Gutman, our football recruiting guy. We got Noah Weiskopf, our new staff writer. He actually made his podcast debut earlier this week. Go and check out that podcast if you haven't already after this one is done, of course. And we got a special guest, I'm going to call him on here because he's typically our basketball guy. We got David Sisk on here to talk some football as well. So really looking forward to this show. Like I said, we're going to be doing some season predictions in this one, literally just going through the schedule, game 1 through game 12, and just going around giving our predictions on what we think is going to happen. And then at the end, we'll kind of tally everything up and give our final record predictions for the Tar Heels this season. Only regular season, obviously, we're going to be talking about here. And Seth, we're going to start with him first every time because he's actually got a little bit of background on each team he's going to give us. He actually just told me this a few minutes ago. This is an exciting little addition to the podcast as well that we're going to have. Well, obviously, with his background and expertise as an analyst, worked for Carolina in the past too. So looking forward to seeing what he has to say about some of Carolina's opponents on the schedule. So, Seth, we're going to start with you. We're going to start with Monday night. TCU, big time game in Kenan Stadium. Obviously, the first one of the Bill Belichick era, 8 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. Seth, give us a little bit about TCU, and then I want you to tell us your prediction for that game. You think Carolina's going to win or lose that one?
Yeah, so TCU is an interesting one. Like a lot of teams in the Big 12, they return a quarterback, Josh Hoover, who's been around now for a couple years. And unfortunately for him, they kind of turn over a little bit of their wide receiver room, but there still is a good amount of talent there. They bring back Eric McAllister, who's like a big play guy. They also brought in one of the best wide receivers in the Big Sky, Jordan Dwyer, who's going to be a big play guy for them as well. Offensive line, they do return a good number of starters there, and especially on defense, their secondary returns a lot, including Elijah Jackson, who wasn't there last year, but did start for Washington the year they went to the national championship. So a bunch of guys who actually did play in the national championship for both TCU and Washington on that unit. So they're going to be a tough opponent, especially week 1. UNC breaking in a lot of new faces, a lot of up transfers. I hope to jinx it. I think TCU is going to sneak out a win, but I hope for everyone else's sake that I'm wrong.
I could definitely see it. Real quickly before I kick it to Noah, I know you hit on him a little bit, but what's your thoughts on Josh Hoover? Do you consider him maybe one of the top returning quarterbacks in the country, or am I being way too generous with that?
I mean, it really depends on the day. Like, I feel like some days that dude is just hitting guys in stride, making smart decisions, but he has a tendency to give the ball away. Like, he'll throw the ball to the other teams at times where you're just scratching your head like, what is this guy even looking at? So he's one of those college quarterbacks. You just never know what you're going to get from drive to drive.
Like, good to know. Yeah, Carolina fans are hoping he has a very off night on Monday night. All right, Noah, what are you thinking for this one? You got TCU or Carolina?
I'm right there with you, Seth. I got TCU. I think, though, that this game can go 100 different ways. And us right now, I think we just have no idea what it's going to look like. Like we mentioned, North Carolina has so many new faces on the team. Nobody knows how they're going to perform, especially week 1 in the national spotlight like they are. But, yeah, I think TCU is going to sneak out a win as well. I think the Josh Hoover returning, it's just a big deal for them to be able to have a quarterback that's been there before at a really high level. Like you mentioned as well, there's some guys there that have the pedigree and have played in really, really big games. So I think that TCU is going to sneak out a win. But, again, I can see this one going a bunch of different ways. But I do think if North Carolina can win the game, it'll be really big for them and the rest of their non-conference opponents. But I'll take TCU.
I like it. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it could go either way. Absolutely. David, what are you thinking for this one, man? You're getting your first pick in here. I know you're a big football guy too, so I'm interested to see what you got to say about this one. Hey, David, you're muted right now. Probably because you've been listening to us talk for the last 30 minutes before we hopped on here.
I'm sorry. I thought I went the other way. I saw the point spread this morning, and it was 3.5. And I think half points a lot of times are big in these situations. I think they want people to take North Carolina out in Vegas. TCU, with Hoover and a lot of the guys back, but I think a lot of times these middle of the road teams in the Big 12 and the ACC, you just never can tell about them. You don't know which way they're going to go. Obviously, we don't know which way North Carolina is going to go with a brand new roster. But I think you'd have to. Yeah, I think you'd have to go with TCU. There's a little bit more familiarity there. But I'll say this: I think if North Carolina wins this game, I think they win double-digit games this year. If they win this game, they win at least 10. I
like it, man. Carolina fans are going to absolutely love to hear that. I'm actually sitting on the same side of and I've flip-flopped with this game because, like Noah said, I have no idea what's going to happen. Really, not only in this game, but really the whole season, because we just don't know. I mean, it's a whole new staff, it's a whole new football program, it's a completely new roster, basically. So trying to predict what this team's going to do throughout the year, much less in game one, because we know how these week one games go a lot of the times. They can be very ugly games because teams are trying to kind of still figure each other out. And I think you could even look at that even more, especially with this North Carolina team, because, you know, the first time any of these guys have done anything together really is going to be when they run out in the field in an official capacity on Monday night against TCU. So I'm going with North Carolina. This is one I'm flip-flop back and forth with, but I've got my final record in my head, and I've got Carolina winning this one. I think the atmosphere, the spectacle of what it is going to aid North Carolina and play in their favor. But for Carolina fans watching this who've been following this program for a while, we also know how Carolina likes to perform in these big moments. This will be a big moment for the program. If we're looking at history, this is a game that Carolina is definitely going to lose based on especially the last 25 or 30 years when it comes to these primetime, big-time matchups. But I'm going with North Carolina in this one. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Bill Belichick's going to get it done in game one. So we got, 2-2 right there. 2 losses for Noah and Seth for the Tar Heels, and then me and David going with Carolina in this one. By the way, I forgot to mention, AJ's not on this one. We right before we hopped on, we were doing a little bit of a pregame stuff. Now he's actually hopped in the studio. So let me see if we can actually get him in here in a second. So he might be joining the podcast shortly. I think his computer exploded on itself before we started this podcast. He's been having technical difficulties for the last 20 minutes or so. So let's see if we can bring him in real quick. We are recording right now, AJ, by the way.
I think the people that have sabotaged my air conditioning, which would be Liberty Home Guard, they suck, had just decided to play a game on my laptop. It's the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi was out completely. Thank God that my wife started complaining that her phone wasn't working right. So I thought, well, okay, at least I don't have to buy a new laptop tonight. That was wild.
You joined at a good time, though. We just got through our TCU predictions. So
well, okay. Well, I'll give you mine in a second, I guess. If I already missed the staff Zoom or game plan coverage.
We rifled through that. Me and Kevin kind of took the lead on it.
Well, you and I have talked, so I'm sure you handled everything, and Noah and I will talk obviously on Monday
for sure.
But anyway, it's wild. What a wild week of stuff not working here.
Hey man, I'm kind of glad it happened now. It makes the show a little more interesting because we started off as just us four, and now we got AJ.
You realize how many people are so disappointed now?
They're like, why did y'all let this guy on here, man?
We thought we were gonna have to deal without that nose this time. No Fred Flintstone.
AJ, we're 2-2. Me and David picked Carolina to win against TCU. We've got Seth and Noah picking them to lose against TCU. So go ahead and give your prediction.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been spent a lot of time on TCU, watch press conferences. I've been talking a little bit, going back and forth a little bit with the publisher. And what I find very interesting, and this is going to be something to watch if you want to look at the TCU angle of this game, is the whole world's focusing on Carolina and Bill Belichick. Nobody's really talking about TCU. This is a really cool opportunity for Sonny Dykes and his program to just insulate, come on in their own little world, and just play ball and win and leave with a W. Because there's really no pressure on them. I know a lot of the national people are picking them to win because they're looking at it from a football standpoint, but there's no way that group's going to show up to Kingdom Stadium Monday night, not understand what they're in for. So he could insulate them before they run out of the tunnel the final time and they're ready to go. They have a really good chance at playing at a very high level and not making mistakes. Sometimes teams making highly emotional first games. So because of that, and because there's just so much unknown with Carolina, I'm going to pick TCU to win this game. I do think Carolina can win. I think Carolina can have a pretty good season, but it's really hard to pick something to happen in a positive for Carolina without having seen it, without really knowing. Even with stuff about Chad Lindbergh, I had the piece Thursday about Chad Lindbergh at center, and I got people who are sources say, you might want to rethink that. And I got, someone else who's very close to him on a personal side, some of that's not accurate. Like, I think people that are really close to the program aren't even sure exactly what's going to take place when they roll out on the field for the first time on Monday night. They may not know who's going to be the center. I don't know if the team knows who the center is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think TCU's a put together enough club. They got enough parts. Hoover's a really good quarterback, smart kid. And Sonny Dykes knows what the hell he's doing, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm picking TCU.
Yeah, I think that's probably the safe pick there for sure, and I could easily see that happening too. So again, we got 3 for TCU in this one, and me and David for UNC in this one. So we'll keep it moving. Seth, AJ, you don't even know this yet. Seth is kind of our expert. He's going to be giving us some information on all these teams, so we're starting with him first. So move on to the next game.
That's one thing I've learned in recent weeks is Seth is a college football junkie.
Like, yeah, I just learned that about 10 minutes ago.
But it's like totally off the charts, which is great. He's going to be our resident expert on the rest of the country, which I'm all for. So make sure you text a lot this weekend because I love the whole nation. I love watching the whole nation. I can't wait till tonight. I just want to watch it and absorb it. And I know Noah knows stuff. Noah knows what he's looking at. He covered a national champion last year. So Seth, you're our resident national college football expert, and David is our resident national college basketball expert.
Yeah, I can't.
So you guys are both him.
It's about a wide net, man.
I'm an SEC football fan, so that'll get me a lot of flack.
I did know that. I did know.
Which is why I wanted you on here, because you know football, and your commentary about football can be pretty funny sometimes too. Actually,
100%. All right, Seth.
I don't have a team. I like to troll. I
know. That's what I love. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Very under the radar Twitter follow on College Football Saturday is David Sisk. He doesn't put much out there, but when he does, it's a zinger, man. It twists the knife a little bit. Good stuff.
I love it.
Especially if Tennessee struggles with Syracuse, there's going to be a couple of David Sisk tweets that are going to be worth the time.
Just firing them things off. Now I look forward to seeing those. All right, Seth, we'll keep it moving. At Charlotte, September 6th. We'll start with you. I know you're a little limited on time here as well. So let's just get through this game, and then maybe we can get you to kind of give us the rest of your predictions afterwards before you have to head out of here, if you have to have out of here. But give us a little info on Charlotte and tell me what you think is going to happen in that one.
Yeah, no doubt. So this is technically a neutral site game, but it's in Charlotte. So I'm assuming there will be a large UNC contingent at the game. It's at the Panthers Stadium, I believe.
No.
So, this one is in Charlotte.
This will be the smallest venue Bill Belichick's ever coached in.
Yep. Surprisingly, it is. Yes. Surprisingly, it is.
I had it written down wrong then.
They couldn't move the game. Carolina tried, but Charlotte's playing App State at the Panther Stadium this weekend.
Maybe that's what I saw.
They can't play a second game there. And Carolina tried to get them to come back to Chapel Hill, and they would go back to Charlotte at some point down the road. And they're like, nah, we're not going to do that. So they get Belichick and 15,000 people.
All right. So I'm already 0 for 1 there. So Connor Harrell is just announced as the starting quarterback for Charlotte, which is pretty cool. We'll have a ready-made story there. Listen, I just think about either way, what happens in week 1, how do they respond, right? So UNC, if they do pull off the win and beat TCU, how do they handle that kind of success going on the road against a team, granted, that's, also new head coach Tim Albin taken over from Ohio, a lot of new pieces, a G5 team, but still we've seen UNC struggle in recent years, especially, they went on the road to App a few years ago. That was a real struggle. So let's see if they can handle success or failure after week 1. I think they should win. I mean, it'd be a big problem if they don't. But let's see what happens after, whatever happens on Monday night.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got Carolina on that one. Love that. I figured you probably would. All right, Noah, what you got in this one? I think I probably know what your answer is going to be, but.
Yeah, I've got Carolina too. I think that the really fun storyline, though, is Andrew hit on it, is the stadium, right? Like this stadium, there's some high school football stadiums in Texas bigger than this one that are bigger venues. I'm excited to see Belichick in that sort of environment. 15,000, like he said. So yeah, I think Carolina gets the win, and I think it's fascinating to look at the first week and say, okay, if they lose, how do they bounce back, and what way do they win this game? Or if they win, like Seth said in week 1, then how do they respond to a win and having that pressure coming off a huge win in a second week? So I think they'll win this game regardless.
And it's also a short week, so they have very little time to turn around and go back there.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good point too. Yeah, super short week, which you don't see a lot in college football like that. Usually it's kind of that Saturday, Thursday slate, but this one again, Monday, Saturday, which is not quite the NFL turnaround, but it's a lot closer to that than your typical college football schedule. All right, David, what you got in this one?
I'll cut it short. They win the next 3 games. We'll save some time here.
Okay.
They win the next 3. They go. I actually had TCU. You said I had North Carolina. I had TCU. So they win the next 3 games. They go 3-1 when they face Clemson.
Did you pick TCU? I don't know why I thought you picked Carolina.
Yeah, I picked TCU. Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys.
So they're 3-1. They're 3-1 when they play Clemson.
Okay. Love that. So I'm making mistakes over here too. Yeah, I'll save y'all some time too. Yeah, they'll beat Charlotte. I think it's an interesting game. Quick turnaround, like Seth said, depending on what happens after TCU. How do they bounce back, or how do they maybe carry some of that momentum into that one? But yeah, I mean, I'm going with Carolina in that. What you got, AJ?
I wonder if Scotland High School has larger capacity than Charlotte. Scotland's got a big stadium. So anybody listening or watching, let us know what Scotland's true capacity is. I'm with all you guys. I think what Seth hit on, regardless of what happens Monday night, they're gonna have to either pick up the pieces or the staff's gonna have to bring them down, because they have to get right into it, and they're gonna get banged up Monday night, and they've got to get healthy in 5 days. They're not going to be able to do a whole lot of much of an install for Charlotte. You would think that they don't need it, but they might. They could. A lot of the things the staff thinks they can do well may blow up in their faces Monday night, and they have to reinvent some stuff in a short week while going on the road. And let's remember, App State's a good example, Seth. But what about Georgia State? Georgia State wasn't a very good club, and Carolina struggled in a weird environment against them a couple of years ago. So I think they win. They're going to win the game, but how they do it and how they respond and how the staff either brings them down or lifts them up, what they're like in the first quarter is going to tell us a lot about how they receive the messaging during the week.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Seth, I know you got to run in a second, so go ahead real quickly and give us your final. What do you think Carolina's going to finish the regular season at? What's your final record prediction for them?
I don't have like a concrete wins loss total for you guys right this second. I could probably get it on the board at some point this weekend. But what I do think Carolina has that is so beneficial to them, and I kind of look to what happened last year in Fran Brown's first year in Syracuse, is they've got a very friendly conference schedule. So even if they aren't hitting at max capacity, let's say they're not, ready to go and compete in a playoff capacity or make it to the ACC conference championship, they've got enough winnable games here that I think they could still easily make a bowl, win 7-8 games if they hit things right. Injuries are limited and whatnot. Especially I'm looking Cal and Virginia, those guys lose a ton. I know Virginia's been getting rampaged with injuries, and Stanford, I mean, I'm sure if any of you guys watched the game last weekend, they didn't exactly look too great.
No, they didn't.
So, win as many games as you can, and then final 2 weeks, hit your peak when you're going up against the rivals.
Seth, if you got a couple minutes, I want to ask him a couple quick questions. I want to get your take on open date before Clemson, open date right after Clemson. They're going to go 26 days. The only game they play in that span is Clemson. And how the staff can handle all the emotion either before or after that game. You've been inside a program before, 3 of them. What are your thoughts on that quirky nature in the schedule?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little excessive. I think you would rather have those open weeks be a little bit more spread out throughout the season. But I mean, it gives them a real opportunity because they'll have plenty of time to prep the week off before Clemson, and then the week after they can either lick their wounds or really, celebrate the win. So there's a lot of positives and negatives that come from it. Personally speaking, I think you would rather have more rest for if you have injuries or you play a really physical game, if you have one in late September, early October, one in November, right before the end of the season, that would be my preference. But, sometimes it comes down to just luck of the draw, I guess.
Is anybody here think Carolina's going to lose to Richmond? I know David doesn't. No, I'm assuming you don't think Carolina's going to lose to Richmond, right? AJ, assuming you think.
Well, Carolina has to end a losing streak to Richmond. They lost at Richmond in 1977 when they went down and played them, believe it or not, on the road. I have a story I'm rolling out that week. I probably shouldn't say it on this thing because then other people will write them, but they went and played at Richmond. And it was a bad Richmond team, and they lost to them. I think Richmond lost to VMI the week later or something. So, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, you don't want to repeat that.
Carolina has a way of, hitting depths of ugliness in football that can be amazing, and they did it that game.
Yeah,
I will say though, Richmond 10-3 last year, 10-3 record last year in the CAA, and they're now moving conferences in the Patriot League. They have a veteran quarterback, Kyle Wickersham. He's experienced. He's played a lot. So I'm not saying I think they're going to win, but I think that it's probably
they beat Virginia a few years ago,
right?
And they held Virginia to 3 points. I think
that's a good point.
I mean, they're a confident program, and they're smart kids, good school. It's they got a little Wake Forest thing going on there where they could just kind of game plan you to death. And I think that'll be an opportunity. Carolina should win big, obviously, but it's one of those games where you just got to be ready to play. These days, you just got to be ready to play. It doesn't matter who you're facing.
If North Carolina loses to Richmond, they should fire Belichick on the tarmac and bring in Marv Levy.
I mean, you're probably not wrong. If they do lose to Richmond, there would be.
I'm surprised you didn't say bring in the offspring of Dick Tarrant to try to steal some of that Richmond thunder.
72 years old or whatever would be too young. They'd need to bring in an older coach.
Well, I agree with you on that. I mean, if they lose that game,
they can't beat Richmond. Yeah,
but I'm one of those people where I'd like to look at how the upset can happen. I look at why a team needs to be on alert, because I think every team needs to be on alert all the time, and that's how you become a champion. Noah covered a national champion last year. He knows what it looks like to see a team that's on alert all the time. And even though they lost to Michigan, the way they rebounded, to me, is the power of the mind in college football. You can have all the parts, you can have the specs, but you got to have the mind. So being ready for a Richmond, respecting a Richmond, is how you develop a championship mental fiber.
100%. Yeah, I think it's all a game we expect them to win. And again, they should be winning rather convincingly. All right, now we're getting to the real fun stuff. At Central Florida, Saturday, September 20th. Seth's not here, so we're not going to start with him anymore. So AJ, you'll take us off now. Who you got in this game?
First of all, can't wait to get down there. I've never been in that stadium. I did cover a game in Orlando, but it was that bowl game when I got locked in the stadium, and the media relations guy for the bowl was tweeting me publicly saying, "You're not locked in there. You can get out." But I couldn't get out. I had to get the cops to come get me. Hopefully that won't happen in the bounce house. I had to go back to that memory because that was a lot of fun that night.
That's pretty wild.
I'm one of those guys that I don't think UCF was as bad as the record indicated a year ago. And when you fire a coach, you think everything's awful. There were some pretty decent components to that team. They just didn't know how to win, and it was time for a change. They're trying to rekindle a flame with Scott Frost. And who knows, maybe he works an overnight miracle there. There's certainly enough talent there. They got money. There's a willingness to win, and that's going to be a tough environment. So the same things that we're talking about, the challenges for Carolina these first three games, it's going to apply to that game too. And it might be a more difficult game than people think right now. They like to gloss over the schedule, but I think a road win against a Big 12 team, I don't care who it is. If you're North Carolina, that's a damn good win. I do think they go in there and get a win only because I think that Belichick will have fixed a lot of stuff by then. And he'll know who shouldn't be on the field for sure. And those guys won't be on the field. And I think they'll be better prepared to win a game than UCF will at that time.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happen. No, what you got? Who you got in this one?
I've got UNC as well. They're UCF. They're led by Cam Fancher, quarterback. They just named him a couple days ago. He was a captain last year at FAU. Threw 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Wasn't the greatest season for him, not what he had envisioned, but I think that there's some talent still for him left in the tank, and I think that's the ultimate reason why he's at UCF. They want to see if he can get to the level that he thinks he can get to. So, like AJ said, I think that this is a tougher game than people think, going to the Big 12 on the road, but I think UNC is more talented. And like he said, I think that there's a lot of adjustments that Bill Belichick and his staff will have had by this point, so I'll take UNC getting a win here, going to 3-1.
Okay. Carolina fans like to hear that. David, correct me if I'm wrong, because I already got your TCU one wrong. You said Carolina to win at UCF, correct?
3-1.
Okay. Got him in that one. Okay. I'm the outlier here. I've actually got them losing, and AJ have talked about, I got UNC losing, I should say. Me and AJ have talked about this before, so this is kind of a little a repeat of where my mind's at. But road game, Scott Frost 2.0. But the intriguing thing for me from a UCF perspective is this is their first big home game. And I'm talking big because I think that place is going to be rocking for this game. I expect it'll probably be a night game, especially Carolina goes into it, like we expect them to go into that game, as long as they're not, 0-3 going into that one. I think there's a real chance this could be a night game down there. But it's that the reason I have Carolina losing this one is we've seen this program struggle in big road games before. I think this is going to be one, but it's the fact that you're going into this raucous environment, the first big home game for the Scott Frost 2.0 era. And I think this is a place, I don't think Carolina necessarily plays bad in this one. I think it's a good game, but I think it's one where they trip up. They just don't quite do enough to win. Maybe the defense gives up a little bit too much. The offense struggles early in that environment to kind of get going. And I think Carolina loses this one in a close one. So yeah, this is the one I've had circled on the schedule for a while. I've talked to a lot of Carolina fans about this one, and I think it's been a little bit split back and forth on what they've had to say. But I think Carolina loses this one. So which means in my head, they're going to go into that Clemson game at 3-1, which I think if you ask a Carolina fan right now, 3-1 going into Clemson, like David says, I think they'd feel pretty good about that. So yeah, I have them losing this one, but sorry, Carolina fans on that one. Hate to let anybody down. All right, moving on to Clemson. I think the biggest game arguably on the schedule. I don't think it's arguably. I think it just is October 4th, which is my birthday, funny enough. So looking forward to that one. Carolina also coming off, will have a bye week after UCF and has a bye week after Clemson, which AJ's already talked about. But AJ, who you got in this game, man? Because I think I know what the predictions are going to be here, but I need to hear it out of y'all's mouths first. So who you got in this one, AJ? Clemson or North Carolina? Can they pull off the shock, man? Can they do it?
Do you remember how much Mac gained by Carolina almost beating Clemson in 2019 when Trevor Lawrence?
Massive moral victory. It was a massive.
And they go for the 2-point conversion at the end of the game instead of kicking the extra point to send it in overtime. That nullified the loss at home to App State. Mm-hmm. And made people think, yeah, look at what they're doing. I'm like, well, look what they did. They lost at home to App State. So I think people are going to judge this game by how they perform, not so much if they win or not, because it will be an enormous challenge for anybody in this league to beat Clemson this year. So I have Clemson winning that game. It'll be it'll be fascinating to see how different the Tar Heels are with a open date in front of it. Other tweaks that Belichick and the staff will make. Because if it's not working right and it's not pleasing to his eye, they're going to continue to massage the crap out of this thing this year. So I think we'll see a different starter here and there. We'll see different formations. They'll junk certain things. They'll add things as they go on. And this is one of those games where if they get Austin Blasky back by then, and they'll actually have their starting center to deal with that monster that's going to be on the other side of the line of scrimmage, they would have a chance maybe at being fairly competitive. That's the way I look at it. They're going to lose that game.
Yeah. What do you got, Noah? Who you got in this one?
I'm taking Clemson too, but I do think the best part about college football is that there's a chance that UNC can pull this off. There is a chance, right? Like, we're not ruling them out right away. There's a chance that they can win this game if things fall their way. I do think that it's interesting, the UCF game, because you don't want to lose that game and then go into Clemson feeling like you need to win, and then if you lose, you got 2 straight down already. So I think that UCF game is pivotal in that reason. But I'm not sure anyone can beat this Clemson team. I mean, they're a legitimate national championship contender. They are right there at the top, probably to win the ACC. I think they can win the whole thing, like I said. But like AJ mentioned, returning players, Peter Woods on the other side there, he's in contention to potentially be the first pick overall. He's a top 3 to 5 pick. They've got TJ Parker, one of the best edge rushers in the country. And then, of course, Cade Klubnik returning on the other side. He's a Heisman candidate at this season. So yeah, I'll take Clemson to win this game. I just think that they're too talented top to bottom for UNC.
Yeah, I'll never forget being about 20 yards away from Cade Klubnik's coming out party when in the ACC title game a few years ago when they benched DJU, brought Klubnik in, and it was just over. I mean, North Carolina has absolutely no answer for it.
North Carolina football was Cade Klubnik's coming out party and also Deshaun Watson's coming out party. They have a way of doing that, being that for opponents.
They did have a little.
If you have a young quarterback that you're going to throw them into the fire, do it when North Carolina's on the schedule.
Yeah, that backup quarterback coming in just lighting you up. What was it? Ben Finley for State a few years ago came in and just, not necessarily torched him, but he won. He led him to a victory when he shouldn't have. So yeah, they have hopefully that changes under Belichick from a fan's perspective. I'm sure they're like, please just don't let backup quarterbacks come in and just torch us. We just don't need to do that anymore. All right, David, I'm a little bit torn on what David's going to say now because he keeps saying 3-1. So I'm like, is he going to pick Carolina in this one? I don't know. Let's see what we got. What you got, David?
No, Klubnik. Klubnik's a real deal. I watched a lot of Clemson last year. I mean, they just look like a team that was about a year away against some of these big teams. They couldn't run a football, short yardage situations, and they've always been able to do that. They had good running backs and just couldn't do it. But so I think this year you can kind of watch them grow at the end of the year. I thought they made some strides against Texas. That was just a tough place to go. And I think the game this weekend between Clemson and LSU, that's the game out of any of them. I would rather watch that game than Texas and Ohio State. I think that's going to be – I think if Clemson comes out of that game and wins, I think they could run the table and go undefeated. So it's going to be – I can't wait to watch that game. But Clemson, I think, by far is going to be your best team in the ACC this year, and that's just one right there. North Carolina can't match up.
First of all, Noah, the look on Noah's face when you said that was priceless. Second of all, I'm with you, man. Last year is like 2015 vibes for Clemson, and going in this year's like 2016 vibes all over again. So this isn't an ACC show, but I think that it's a good chance that Bill Belichick will face a national championship team in his first year.
Gideon Davidson may be one of the most important players in the country this year. Freshman running back over there. Dabo's really built him up, and it's what they need. They're going to be able to throw it around a lot. I think they're going to have Clemson-looking wide receivers. They've had some guys the last few years running around out there at wide receiver. You're like, how are they playing wide out at Clemson? I think they're going to get back. I think they're going to get back to looking like Clemson this year.
I don't know who's going to score against them. They're built defensively to stop every scheme. They're so good. They're so deep and good. And he went and brought a couple guys in from the portal. So he's sort of embracing the modern era.
He is, yeah. He has started dipping his toe in that portal finally a little bit. I mean, no shocks here. I agree with everybody. If you think I'm going to come on here and say Carolina's going to beat the preseason number 4 ranked team, you got another thing coming, guys. I've been watching Carolina football for way too long to come on here and go on that much of a limb that they're going to do that. I don't think they get blown out necessarily. I don't think it's that kind of game. I don't know if it's 2019 comes down to kind of the last play kind of game, because I agree with y'all. I think Clemson is a national championship favorite, obviously, and I think they have a very legitimate shot at doing that this year. But yeah, I think it's probably a relatively good game. Clemson pulls away a little bit in the fourth quarter, maybe wins by a couple touchdowns or, double digits. But yeah, no chance I'm picking Carolina to win that one. And I don't know if any Carolina fan it really is if they actually step back and be like, no, seriously, like, what do you think is going to happen in this game? I think 99% of the fan base can be like, yeah, we're probably not quite ready for that yet.
Question before we move on to the next one real fast, and I want our listeners and viewers to respond to this as well. If Carolina's 4-0, is game day there? Like the full game day crew? Not the modified version they're getting Monday, the whole full game day crew. Are they there? I think so.
Yeah, if they're 4-0.
They're 4-0 going into that one. They're going to blow the Belichick Dabo thing up like there's no tomorrow.
It'll be a night game too. I think if it's 4-0, I think it'll just be that'll be the one. It won't be the ACC network 8 p.m. prime time. No, none of that. It'll be prime time ESPN or ABC potentially. Game day being there. Yeah, I could see that. I think if they're 4-0 going into that, I don't think they will be 4-0, but if they are, I think no doubt the game day will be there.
Is there a chance they stick UNC inside the top 25 if they're 4-0 going into that game? Then it's a ranked matchup there?
I bet you if they're impressive Monday and win, they're going to be in the poll the next day.
It's not a bad shout.
They'll climb quickly, too.
Something else to think about. If it's a ranked game that night?
Because people are going to watch them. If they look good, people are going to watch them, so they're going to rank them. If you win and nobody's watching you, it's kind of hard to move up. It's like, oh, yeah, there's that team. Everyone's going to watch them. So if they win and they do impressive and entertaining things, they're going to move up fast.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good shout. I hadn't thought about that, but you are right. If they win relatively comfortably, whatever that means against TCU, I think they easily could kind of, because I think the reason they're not preseason ranked is because, like we've said 1,000 times, no one knows what this team's going to be like. But if they come out and beat TCU convincingly, I think people are just waiting to hype on the Bill Belichick hype train. So yeah, they do that. I think they'll definitely be in the top 25 pretty quickly.
Or dump on it, Jacob.
Yeah.
I think it's both ways.
Yeah, that's true. That is a good point. You are right about that. I think, if they struggle, I think the media will be all over this program, which, is not what Carolina fans want to hear, but it's just the reality, I think, when you've got Bill Belichick at the helm. All right, now we're really diving into the meat. Bye week after Clemson at California, Friday night game. This one's trickier than I think some people had expected. 10:30 kickoff, which just makes me want to just puke on camera. I just can't believe I have to stay up till about 4 a.m. that day. But we'll get to that point. All right, AJ, who you got in this one? It's again, I think this is trickier than some people are imagining. I really do.
I covered their last 10:30 start.
When was their last 10:30 start?
Probably around the time that Noah was, in diapers. 2002 at Arizona State, 10:30 on a Saturday night.
Yeah, that is even I don't really remember that one.
That was a wild game. That was when a kicker named Barth missed 3 field goals for Arizona State. And I say that, Noah and David don't know this, but the greatest kicking family ever in Carolina history are Connor and Casey Barth. Mm-hmm. Connor beat Miami when they were number 4 in the country, most famous kick ever in Carolina. And some dude named Barth missed a bunch of field goals, and that's how they won that game. And afterward, John Bunny was just so ecstatic just to get a W. It was a fun game. It was a great game, but that was a 10:30 kickoff. And I got locked in the stadium afterwards. It's another one, by the way. I was with Jim Hawkins. We both got locked in that night. But I think that's a tough game. I think it's going to be really cool, a night game at Cal with that scene there, because it's a beautiful place. I was there a few years ago when Carolina played there in 2018. I think the Tar Heels are going to go in there and win that game. They're going to split their Friday night games. I think they're going to go in there and win that one, but it's not going to be super comfortable. They're going to have to make plays and hope that Cal hurts itself some.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who you got, Noah?
I'm with AJ. But first, let me say I wasn't in diapers at that time, AJ. I wasn't even born yet. I will.
22. How old are you now?
I was born in 2003.
Oh, God, you're making me feel old now, Noah. I know you're making AJ and David feel old, but you're making me feel old now, man.
Yeah. I'm with AJ. I'm going to take UNC, but I think this is going to be a tight one. It's going to be an uncomfortable one down the stretch. But I think it's just a really tough test for them in terms of coming off a probable loss to Clemson and then having to travel across the country. I know they have the bye week in between, but still traveling across the country, getting used to that with the time change and everything. I'm intrigued to see how Cal looks just in general. They brought in Ohio State transfer quarterback Devin Brown, who was, I guess, the presumed starter, but lost the job to a younger Hawaiian kid out there who committed to Cal, flipped to Oregon on National Signing Day, and then transferred back to Cal after his first year at Oregon. So interesting sort of dynamic there at quarterback for Cal. Quite the story. But yeah, he's a talented kid. We'll see what he's able to do in his first full season starting. But I think UNC is going to scrape away with the win.
Gutsy move by Justin Wilcox trying to save his job too, by the way.
For sure.
Is, yeah. That's a good point. Who you got, David?
I'll say some more time. North Carolina wins the next 2 before they go to Syracuse.
Okay, I like it, David. David's keeping this thing sped up. Just a bonus question, Cal related. They start at Oregon State, Texas Southern, Minnesota, at San Diego State, at BC, Duke, before Carolina. Is Ron Rivera the interim head coach by the time Carolina plays?
No, I think they're going to split those games. I think Cal's good enough to kind of beat you every once in a while, and they're good enough to lose to you. They're just kind of a meh team.
They knocked on the door a few times last year. They could never quite get it done.
I think the key is, I think Justin Wilcox is on his way out. They go down to San Diego State and lose that game. They got to win that game. San Diego State is okay, but Cal needs – you're in the ACC. They're investing. They got to win that game. But I agree with you. I think Rivera is the next head coach there if it doesn't work with Wilcox.
Kind of feels the same way at Stanford. I don't know what Andrew Luck's situation is, but it's like the ACC network does it. Like I was watching the game in Hawaii, and like they had like an Andrew Luck cam in the thing. I'm like, he is just the next up. I don't know if he wants to be a head coach, but it feels like he is just the guy in waiting over there. All right, let's move on.
David loves us talking about Cal football, by the way.
I bet he does, man. I bet David just lives and breathes.
He asked a while ago curious what Cal's going to look like. There's going to be a lot of underarm hair, a lot of unkept haircuts, all that. You know.
Walking that campus in 2018, it's like every possible protest you can think of had a sign pinned up against the wood foam pole things, all these billboards all over the place. If you need to find a protest, you're going to find it in Berkeley, man.
If I was Belichick, I would tell the guys, look, if you win, I'll go out there and cut down a tree on campus. So
fly it back.
I don't care who's chained to it.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's absolutely
Hey,
fantastic.
the spotted owl might be up there, man.
All right, we don't have to ask David this next one. He's already given his prediction, but we don't start with him anyway. So, all right, AJ, we'll start with you. UVA at home, October 25th, a Saturday game. Surely Carolina's got to be winning that one, right? I don't know what UVA is going to be like. I'm not sure anybody really does. Some people saying they might be a little bit better. Some people saying they're going to really struggle again under Tony Elliott. But who you got in this one?
Well, they're supposed to be better. They spent a lot of money. The investment, they're starting to churn their wheels with the investment that Carolina's already done with football. And because of that, I don't think there's going to be much patience in year 4 for Tony Elliott. I think it's a very good chance that Carolina faces an interim coach. You want an under-the-radar game to watch this weekend? Coastal Carolina at Virginia. If Virginia loses that game, Tony Elliott may not be at the press conference the following Monday. I'm serious.
That's a good point.
They have invested. So I don't think the patience is going to be I think it's going to be very thin there. I am going to predict that he's not the head coach when Virginia shows up and Carolina pounds them. Now, the last time they took on an interim head coach was Georgia Tech and Brent Key, and Carolina was rolling, and they were, 8-1, 9th in the country or something, and Georgia Tech came in and beat them because that Carolina could never handle prosperity under Mac or really any coach recently. So, but I do think Carolina wins that game. They win
Josh Downs. Is that the Josh Downs drop touchdown?
Josh Downs drop game, yeah.
That one still, that one. I know that one still hurts. I know a few Carolina fans, that one still hurts, especially because you're like, man, if anybody could have thrown to, Josh Downs drops it. I mean, I don't know if he probably hadn't dropped a pass since, to be fair, because he's been that good in the NFL too. But yeah, that one still stings a lot of Carolina fans. Noah, what do you got in this one? Do you think Carolina's going to win or no?
I think so. Yeah, Carolina's going to win. Just for perspective, Virginia over the last 3 years, they've averaged less than 4 wins a season. We could see an interim coach like Andrew mentioned, but yeah, I think Carolina gets a big win here, finally back at home after a long trip out west and a bye week the week before, getting back in the win column in front of their home fans.
I love it. We know David's answer. He's got him too. So yeah, I got
Good job by Andrew throwing out an upset teaser there. I'll give you another one. Toledo, Kentucky.
Oh, you think Toledo's going to beat Kentucky?
Yeah, watch out.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go there because I think a lot of people that are watching just love college football in general. If that happens, what are the birds chirping in Lexington?
Well, they've been chirping.
I know. I mean, they're going to be louder.
Yeah.
Has that thing run its course?
Yeah.
I think it has too.
Yeah, they're already the coach down at Tulane now that's down there that was his coordinator. He's been like the coach in waiting to the fan base for the last 2 years.
He was a few people's priority in Chapel Hill last year until Belichick gave them the presentation on Zoom that changed everything in Chapel Hill.
I'm not really a sports bettor because I lose every bet I place, but David has me a little convinced. I might go sprinkle a few dollars on that one, maybe. Why not? Just to live life on the edge a little bit. As my cat crawls across my screen, as AJ knows my cats like to do on these podcasts. I think it's telling me to hurry this thing up, so I'll keep it moving. All right, at Syracuse, Friday night game, Halloween night, 7:30 p.m. kickoff, ESPN. I think this is a tricky one, AJ. Who do you got in this one? I think I know what you're going to say in my head. I'm kind of trying to predict before I kick it to you guys. I think I might get this one right.
I guarantee Syracuse wears all orange that night. That's a no-brainer. Yeah. Halloween, they're at home, all orange. That place can be loud for football. And that could become an advantage for them down the road, just playing in that joint. It's obviously very loud. I've covered both sports in there. A lot of basketball in there. I think that's a loss for Carolina. I like Fran Brown. Yeah, I would love to see him stay at Syracuse and see if he can create something special there. But I have a feeling he's going to be a guy that hops in a couple of years because the SEC or Big Ten, probably SEC will come calling. But I like him a lot. I like his message. I think he'd be a really cool dude to cover. And they're not going to win as many games they did last year because they have a much tougher schedule. But they're going to win that one.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Carolina fans have that one kind of circled on their schedule as well for the reasons you just mentioned. Noah, what do you got? Do you agree with AJ or you maybe going the other way?
I agree with him yet again. I'm also a big Fran Brown believer. They were one of the best stories in the country last year, got that Notre Dame kid at quarterback. I think they can have another really productive season. So, yeah, I'll go with them on the road, Halloween night, everything considered. I think that UNC will lose a close one there. I feel like this one could be like an overtime type, right down to the wire, final play kind of game, but I think Syracuse can win this game.
Or that might be one of those nights where the Tar Heels just get blitzkrieged out of the gate. That place is going to be a zoo on Friday night.
Yeah, that's a dangerous place.
Regardless, Syracuse wins.
Yeah. David, who you got in that one?
Yeah, there have been a lot of teams over the years. Dabo's lost up there. And there have been a lot of really good teams going there and lose. And, I'm trying to define. And so that was one on a schedule that I circled going to Syracuse. And I like the coach, too. I think he did a great job last year. I've been trying to find somewhere because I'm bullish on North Carolina because of their schedule. And I think they can knock out. I think 7.5. Vegas is over under on win total. And I would go over. And I think obviously Clemson is a loss there, and they're underdog to TCU barely. But I've been trying to find where are the upsets at? Where could they drop the ball? And I mean, if you look at the entire schedule, to me, this is the one that kind of jumps off the page. Going to Syracuse, it's just traditionally just a place where you can have a long bus ride home.
Yeah. I agree with y'all. I'm not going to make this any more interesting by disagreeing. This is the one on my schedule that I think for a while that Carolina's going to lose. For all the reasons AJ said, for like Noah's mentioned, like David said, I think it's a tough environment to go into. Halloween night, the place is going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. And I believe in Fran Brown too. I think he's going to do a really good job this year. And I think Syracuse could have a really solid year this year as well. But yeah, it's not necessarily, I don't think, if this is in Keenan, I feel differently about it. I really do. But what this is, when it is, where it is, just makes me feel like a little bit similar to the UCF game. Kind of like, man, I could see Carolina losing this one. So yeah, I'm taking Syracuse in this one as well. But who knows? Maybe they'll go in there and shock us all. Be interested to see what Carolina fans get involved in the comments too. Let us know what you guys think Carolina's record's going to be. And if you disagree with any of these losses or any of these wins, let us know. That's the reason we're doing this. All right, moving on. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do Stanford real quick, and then we're going to combine the last three. So especially they're all in-state teams with Wake, Duke, and State. We'll go all through those at once, do those three games at once. So let's just get through Stanford, and then we'll roll through those. Stanford, November 8th, Saturday in Kenan Stadium. AJ, who you got in this one?
Yeah, to go back to Syracuse just very quickly, I think North Carolina loses that one. New Carolina maybe doesn't. So 70 new players, a whole new staff, a new culture, lots of financing. The earth below Kenan, underneath the Kenan Football Center, is different than the earth was before. So therefore, Carolina loses games like that. I wonder at what point this year we say that. Because you come back home against Stanford, and let's say they go win at Syracuse, and they win, like Noah said, in overtime or something like that. Old Carolina, North Carolina, would struggle the next week against Stanford at home. Stanford beat Louisville last year. When Louisville, Louisville was rolling, and all of a sudden Stanford takes care of them. So North Carolina would struggle with Stanford, still win. New Carolina puts them out of their misery early. So I'm going to go in between. They win solidly. I don't know if they're new or North yet, but we might know by then.
Yeah, we might. You brought up a good point. Before I came to know, like, that is one of the things I'm having a hard time separating when it comes to predicting these games, because again, I don't know what this team's going to look like. Nobody does. But the old North Carolina that you're talking about, AJ, you're kind of saying, I have a very hard time just we'll just kick that. Let's not factor that in, because I've been watching Carolina football for so long. Yeah. So I just say that to say, like, it does make these predictions kind of tricky, because I'm like, well, if they're rolling and under this new Belichick regime, maybe this is a game they go in there and kind of win and shock people. But like you said, if you're kind of banking on old North Carolina, it's like, yeah, they're not going to Syracuse and winning that environment. It's kind of how I feel about UCF to an extent as well, which is why I picked Carolina there. But it is tricky, again, because it's just such a new program and a newness over here in Chapel Hill. So who you got in this one, Noah?
I got UNC too. Not expecting big things the rest of the year from Stanford. We saw what they did last week against Hawaii. I think that UNC will get a bounce back game here. home game before the in-state sort of run starts. So I think this will be a big one for them to be able to sort of prove to themselves that they still are the team that they think they are, be able to win big, or at least solidly, as Andrew said. But yeah, I think that they get this done. Advance to 6-3.
David, you're not picking Stanford in this one, are you?
No, not at all. Not even though they are off the mean streets of Palo Alto. No.
Thought you might.
David would pick him in water polo, though, right, David?
I don't know. I would have to see what North Carolina had in water polo.
I'm about to say they probably give Carolina a run for their money when it comes to just the amount of athletic programs they have. I'm sure Stanford.
They do. They have 36.
That's what
Stanford
I thought.
36. Carolina's 28. I think maybe Texas has more than Carolina. That might be it.
That's like those saying if you got two quarterbacks, you've got none. If you've got 36 athletic programs, you've got none. So we're taking North Carolina.
They hang banners winning national titles in sports, but they're like 6 other teams. It's like being a state champion in Delaware or Wyoming.
Yeah, it's like you didn't play.
Does it really count?
Yeah, it's a good point. It doesn't really count when you're playing about 3 different teams. Yeah, I'm Carolina in this one. No need to talk about it. I don't think Stanford's very good, and unless they prove otherwise, they didn't start the season very well. I don't know why things would change with them. And again, if Carolina loses that one, then again, it's going to be meltdown mode in Chapel Hill. So yeah, give me the Tar Heels in that one. All right, we're going to combine these last 3 at Wake, Duke on the road, and then at NC State. AJ, we'll start with you. State championship on the line. You know, Mac loved that state title, AJ. You got to win the state championship. Didn't really have a lot of success doing that, especially in his 2.0 tenure. But can Carolina win the state title here, AJ? What do you think is going to happen in these 3?
We have no idea what Wake's going to be either. Wake brought in a lot of new dudes and spent a little bit of money. And you go out and get a guy from Washington State and bring him to Winston-Salem. It's just kind of an odd transition. I don't have a lot of faith in what Wake's going to be. I think that they'll be toward the bottom of the ACC. Carolina should go in there and win, but it's tough when Carolina goes over there. That's the one time they fill it up at Wake is when Carolina shows up. So that'll be interesting as well, especially if it's a night game. Duke at home, I really like what Duke football's become, guys. Duke football will beat you up. Duke has won 8 or more games in the last 7 years under 3 different coaches.
I think they have the second. Isn't it like sorry to interrupt you? I think like the second most wins in the ACC in the last X amount of years. I need to look that up.
And if you go back, what Cutcliffe did was amazing. I was at his introductory press conference, and I was wondering, like, this guy went from Ole Miss SEC to this place. Why would he take this job? I mean, it was as down in the dumps as can be for a power conference program. And what he did was nothing short of amazing at Duke, and he created the landscape that they've been able to win off of since then. So I think Duke's a really difficult game for Carolina. In fact, I might think it's a more difficult game than going to NC State because they're going to be physical. They're going to punch the Heels in the mouth, and we'll see what the Heels are like at that point. However, it's a home game. They lost to Duke last year. Whatever kids are still around from that game, they're going to want to get that bell back. I think they'll beat Duke. They go to NC State. Again, is Dave Doran out on the way out by the time that game? Might he be this year's version of Mac Brown last year? Get fired the week of the NC State game, or when NC State plays Carolina. I think that's similar to what David was saying about Kentucky. I think NC State fans are wondering if this is the end of the road. This is what's going to be. And you got Belichick down the road. And if Carolina's winning and State's just kind of doing the dull Dave thing, there might be a change there. And if there is a change there, I don't care. If coaches get fired during the week, their teams aren't ready to play that week. We saw that with Carolina last year. Yeah. I mean, they played okay, but it was just the kids doing that. There wasn't much else. So I actually think they close well. I'm going to say they're going to win those 3. I think that they close well and win all 4 in November. Previously, when I was doing our written thing, I had them losing at State because it's really hard to pick them to win at State until they actually do beat NC State. But right now in this show, I'm going to lean a little bit more toward beating State, but I have to go 2-1 in this stretch because I already put it on paper.
Okay. I think that's fair. Know what you got in this one.
So Wake Forest, I have the win. Sort of a similar situation-ish as to UNC. 22 new transfer guys coming in. Like you mentioned, the guy from Washington State in there. Robbie Ashford is the transfer quarterback there from Auburn, but I think UNC is just better all around. I'm with AJ on that too. I think that they win that. And then the Duke game gets interesting. I think that UNC wins one of two versus Duke at NC State. I think they drop one of them. I'm debating on which one they do drop. But for the sake of this, I'll say for home field advantage, they beat Duke, lose to NC State. Duke has beaten UNC, has beaten Duke in 5 of the last 6. Loss, like AJ mentioned, came last year, but they made a big splash, Duke, in the portal with Darian Mensah, quarterback from Tulane. He's a really, really good player. Selected the preseason Maxwell Award list. But I think they need weapons around him to step up. So we'll see if they're able to do that over the course of the season until they get to that game. I'll take UNC to beat Duke at home, get to 8-3, and then go at NC State, another really good quarterback there, and CJ Bailey, similar on the watch list there for the Maxwell Award. And honestly, similar in the sense that they need their weapons to step up on the outside as well around CJ Bailey. But I think that, like AJ mentioned, tough place to play. I think that it'll be another down to the wire finish, like I mentioned, potentially against Syracuse, could be an overtime-ish close game right down there in the fourth quarter. But I'll give the edge to NC State just because they've got home field, and I just got to see them do it first. So I think 8-4 final record.
And let me add that will be the drunkest stadium Carolina plays in this year.
Yeah.
By far.
By a country mile, AJ. By a country mile. It's not even close. By the way, Darian Mensah, you mentioned him. I remember reading an article. I had to go look it up again to make sure I was accurate, but he's like unofficially, this came out last December, he's unofficially like the highest paid player in college football history with like a 2-year, $8 million deal. I mean, just insane the amount of money that Duke threw at him. But again, I agree. I think Duke's got that program's headed in a nice direction.
That's what I want David to talk about. David, as an SEC guy, Carolina versus Duke in football, and you're going to have $6 million a quarterback out there.
Well, I mean, if you're going to have it, that's the position to have it at. But you talk about drunk stadiums. You ain't never been to Baton Rouge on a Saturday night. So
the great Taylor Zarzer has told me about if you sit in the lower deck below the upper deck where LSU people are, in that little small visiting section, they get 2 sections, that it's not a good place to be. Bring your rain gear.
Oh, well, I mean, the liquor bottles come flying out there.
It's not just liquor, man.
Glass.
Taylor Zarzer swears it's not just liquor.
Yeah. So
bring your disinfectant.
That's the way college football. That's the way college football ought to be. So Wake Forest, I'm going to miss Clausen. I love watching the linemen stand straight up, the quarterback hold the ball in the mesh zone for 10 seconds until somebody moves. It's like watching a chess game. So Wake Forest, new staff, new everything. Robbie Ashford at Auburn, it's the same guy Hugh Freeze said last year, if we'd have had a quarterback, we'd have won 8 games. So, I don't think, at least it's not going to all get blamed on him at Wake Forest this year. He was awful. One of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. So, Wake Forest, they'll win that one. Here's the thing, North Carolina State and Duke, I'm kind of going back and forth on this one. I think they'll split, but I think these are big because I think when you get a new coach, Belichick, and maybe it's not as important to him because he's out of this, Saban's out of that tree. Saban used to say all the time, he said, look, I don't care about these rivalry games. I know they're big to the fan base and the alumni and all the people around here. He said, but he took that one practice at a time, one game at a time, and no game's bigger than the other. I'm curious how Belichick will take that, but I think he's a little bit different at North Carolina and Alabama because he didn't want anybody to be equal to Alabama. So I wonder if North Carolina, you set the environment, and these are the 2 games you draw the line in the sand. And you say, okay, we got Duke, we got North Carolina State. These are big rivalries. These are the hated rivalries. These are the games we're going to get. And that's how you rally the troops, the fan base, the players, everybody, by beating the rivals. I think they'll split. I don't know, man. I'm probably flip-flopping here by taking them to lose at home and win on the road. That's probably not the smart thing, but I just like Duke better than North Carolina State this year, especially with the addition. And Andrews talked about the history of it, and and this program, and Manny Diaz has got, he's got boots on the ground there, and he's building this thing. And I just think Duke's got a lot more momentum than North Carolina State now as a program. Now, who knows by the end of the year? But I'm going to go 2-1. I think they lose to Duke.
I agree. I think if Duke and State play a neutral field, it would be wise to pick Duke to win that game. I think it's a really buttoned up operation there. Question for Jacob. And this goes back to what David was saying just a second ago, the Saban-esque possible approach by Belichick. Belichick's press conference, you were there. Is it actually a press conference?
What you're going to say, because I was going to say the same thing.
He told everybody, which we all laughed at because we didn't believe him, what his first words were. Because it was when his dad was an assistant at Carolina. What were they?
Beat Duke.
Yeah.
Beat Duke, man.
But the thing at the time, people need to remember that for a long time, Virginia was the biggest football rival. They opened with Virginia for years during a stretch. So when my dad was in school, I remember going to a game with my dad and sitting in the upper deck, and the UVA bunch was below. And no, there wasn't liquid going down there. He would lean over the railing, scream at him, "Go back to Charlottesville and drink your bourbon." This is a guy that worked for 2 presidents, carrying on like that with UVA in town.
I love it.
So, I think the beat Duke thing, I agree with David. I think that's the way Belichick's going to handle things. Very business. The beat Duke stuff was just to make people chuckle at a press conference.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say that same thing when I talked about my prediction here. I think they beat Wake. I think I've been flip-flopping back and forth of this too, but I'm going to trust Bill Belichick's word. I know for a fact his first words were not beat Duke. We can all agree on that. There's no chance that was his first word. We can all agree on that. I love it. I would have said the same thing to get the fan base on the side, but I think there's about a 2% chance those were actually his first words, but we're going to hold him to it. I think he's going to beat Duke. And I think he's going to lose at State, man. But I'm like David, and maybe we can talk about this for a second. I am flip-flopping so hard. I think they're going to split Duke and State, because my prediction's 8-4, just like Noah's. I think Carolina's going to finish 8-4 this year. But I keep going back and forth on the Duke at State. I think if it's at Duke, I feel a lot more confident. But it's just that State thing. And the reason I'm picking Carolina to lose to State is I'm still in that old Carolina mindset. And like I think AJ, you said it earlier. It's almost like until I see them beat them, I'm not going to come on a show and predict them to win. I think I said the exact same thing on our preview show before the State game last year that they lost, that if you think I'm going to come on here and pick Carolina to beat State when they've lost 3 in a row and however many in the last however many, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to stick with my prediction. I'm going to stick with Carolina beating Duke at home. I think it's a close game, really good game. And then I think they're going to lose a tight one against State in Carter Finley. Like you said, drunkest stadium, and they'll play at this year.
Freaking zoo.
And I have a theory about State. My theory with State, and I was talking to these guys before we started recording. And I think Brett Freelander, I don't know if it's the same thing, but I know he likes to call it the law of the wolf pack. Law of the wolf, excuse me. Anytime NC State has any level of expectation on the football, they crash and burn, kind of like last year. There's not a lot. Yeah, there's not a lot of expectation on them this year, AJ. So I think they're actually going to be pretty decent. That's my kind of thing with NC State. I think they might end up being better than some people might think they will be, because nobody thinks they're going to be very good. So you're
saying the law of the wolf will hit them in basketball season, because they've completely blown that.
That is true, man. Reality. That is true. Maybe Will Wade can defeat that. Maybe he's the guy to come in and defeat the law of the wolf, but all signs point to that not happening. But yeah, 8-4 is my final prediction. Noah, yours is 8-4. AJ, what was your final? Is it 8? Are you 9-3 or 8-4?
8-4, 5-3.
Okay. David, what was your final?
I have them losing to TCU, Clemson, Syracuse, and State.
What was your final, David? Final record?
9-3.
Okay.
Losing to Clemson, Syracuse, and Duke. My floor, after really looking and listening to everybody and talking, I think when you listen to other people, you get a better feel for it.
Yeah.
My floor is probably about 7-5. I think 10-2 would be absolute best. I'm going 9-3. I don't think, 7.5. Like I said, that's what Vegas set it at. I think 7-5 is about the floor. I would have. I think it'd really, really, really be disappointing if they went worse than that. But I'm gonna say 9-3.
Let me real quickly, because I put a post on Twitter before we recorded, and then we'll head on out of here. I went and I asked everybody that would respond to let me know what you think Carolina's prediction, what the record's going to be, kind of like we're doing here. and there's probably 10, at least, 12 responses. There were only 2 that predicted Carolina to lose less than 8 games. Most of my responses from Heel Brothers, 10-2, Corey Cruz, he predicted 10 wins, Chopped On Podcast, 10-2, Matthew P, 8-4. I told him I'd shout him out. Logan Kinlaw, 10-2, Jax, 9-3, Wayne Long's 8-4 or 9-3. You get the gist there, which I don't know if I'm surprised. I was a little bit surprised by that. But I also think I probably shouldn't be, because I think maybe this is what we can close this podcast on, is I think the optimism around this program is very evident right now. I can tell from the reactions on Twitter, from our message board conversations, from that tweet alone that, Carolina fans are actually a little bit more maybe optimistic than I've expected, because as me and AJ have talked about 1,000 times before, this is a fan base that has not been rewarded. And this is a fan base, just look back to last year, that it just feels like every season they kind of get burned in some way, shape, or form. Even the Fedora, 11-win season, like the way that season ended with the Clemson game, how that went on that horrible onside kick call, and they go to Baylor and give up 6 billion yards to a 8-string quarterback. Like, even when Carolina's knocked on the ceiling, they've kind of crashed and burned to end the thing. So I'm a little bit surprised at the level of optimism, but I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be, because of this Bill Belichick savior who's going to come in and turn this program around approach that it feels like it's having right now. But again, no games have been played. Everybody's great right now. Everybody loves Bill Belichick right now. It'd be interesting to see how the season goes and how maybe that shifts. But AJ, let's end it like this. I want to ask you, and I'll get Noah and David's take. Are you at all surprised at the level of optimism? Or maybe if you've seen opposite, if you've seen a lot of fans or talked to a lot of fans that are not very optimistic, like, what's your take on the optimism right now?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you read that off, because I've been so swamped building stuff, getting ready for the season. I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to what others have been saying the last week and a half. Even on our boards, I haven't scoured our message boards as much. I just haven't had time.
Very optimistic from what I've seen.
Yeah. So I think part of it, first of all, to your point you were making about Carolina, Carolina football always finds the landmine. They step on it
every day, every year.
They have to go completely out of the way, veer off the interstate, go through 48 backward dirt roads to find the landmine. UNC football finds that landmine. Always. That's the history of the program. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe they have somebody who keeps them on that interstate. They don't veer off and step on the landmine. I don't know. But the optimism, I think, is coming from somewhat the vibe that I've gotten being around the program. I've told you this, and I'm not going to hold back on this. Every time I leave Belichick and a time in Chapel Hill, I feel a little bit better about where this thing's going. And I know from personal, I talked to a couple of extremely well-placed sources yesterday. He's dug in. I've been telling people he's dug in. The national media want to focus on stuff that has no bearing with what's going on over there. Noah, you're fairly new to this. That one storyline that people like to throw around, have you had any scent of that in the last couple of weeks being around the program? It is a non-story when you're in that building and when you're dealing with this team. It is business. There are no distractions. He is dug in. I talked to 2 people, like I said, extremely well placed yesterday, and they said that he's telling people he's having more fun than he's ever had coaching, and that he really likes relating to these kids and the teaching. There's so much to teach, and you teach and teach and teach, and that's one of the things we got during fall camp is that they're still tweaking installs heavily, not even tweaking. They're doing installs 2.5 weeks into training camp, when most coaches are, 4 days in, if your install's not in, they're freaking out because they got a game in 24 days against Prairie View. But these guys are so calm. They're not panicked. They're patient. Let's move this part here to make things better. Let's move this part here to make things better. They're very calculated in that sense, and there's a pretty heavy brain trust in that room. So I think fans are getting an idea of that. You listened to Belichick last Wednesday, not this week, but the week before. That was football nerd 101 stuff. I loved it. He's talking about nuances of the game that coaches don't talk about. And fans are like, man, this is different. He's not building up half the team to be future NFL players. He's not talking about this guy's been incredible at camp. I can't wait to see him on the field. And then he doesn't play. None of that BS has come out. And I think because of that, there is a confidence that is accrued over time. People listening to the press conferences, reading the stuff that we write and the other media writes and the stuff we say on podcasts. I think that's a big part of why people are very confident. I'm more confident and optimistic for this team this year right now than I was when I was in Charlotte at the ACC kickoff. Significantly more, to be honest with you.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, what's your take on that? I know you're obviously kind of new to the history of the program, as you know, you just got down here recently and just started covering this team, but like, are you at all surprised at the level of optimism that appears to be out there? Are you kind of like, you know what, when you bring in a guy that's won as many Super Bowls as Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach of all time? Yeah, I think any fan base would probably get pretty excited about that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, like if I'm thinking, like, put yourself in the shoes of one of these players, right? Like one of these kids that decided to come to Chapel Hill, decided to play for North Carolina under Bill Belichick. If you're in the facility, if you're going out to practice and your head coach is a 6-time Super Bowl head coach, and he's telling you that everything's fine, he's telling you to be calm, he's telling you it's all going to work out, what else do you need? Listen to the guy. He knows what it takes. So there's no real reason for these guys to panic when you're being told by the greatest head coach in football history that it's all going to work out. I think that the optimism comes from a mixture of that and also a mixture of, look at the strength of the schedule for North Carolina. They lucked out this year. There could be no better season where they're able to play these types of ACC teams. And I think that there's a real chance outside of Clemson that they have a really, really winnable schedule. I think there's a chance they can win every game outside of Clemson, most likely, if they're firing on all cylinders. Now, of course, we're not predicting that they come out of the gates and they're firing on all cylinders right away and they just roll through the rest of the year. But there is a chance, and every single one of the games on their schedule is winnable outside of maybe Clemson. So I think the optimism is a mixture of that and also a mixture of you have this guy as your head coach who respects everybody in the country respects.
Let me add one more thing.
That's a really good point about the schedule, by the way. It's a really good point.
Yeah, it's really good stuff there. Let me add one more thing, and I would love David's comment on this, and really both of y'all. There's 70 new players on the roster that have never stepped on a landmine. Like, they don't have UNC football culture in their blood the way it was. That's North Carolina. They don't have, they're New Carolina, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, too. It is just so much newness here. Maybe that, whatever that is, doesn't infect them like it seems to have infected so many other players and teams that have played at this university. David, real quick before you wrap up, what's your take on kind of the optimism? I mean, I know you're an big SEC guy, but you're obviously someone who knows a lot about Bill Belichick. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but are you surprised that Carolina fans for a majority are kind of like, yeah, man, we're going to roll this year. We'll at least win 8 games. So it seems like the consensus out there.
I picked them to win 9.
Yeah, that's true. You're pretty high on it too.
So, I'm carrying the pom-poms here. So when the season, when everything started rolling out, and so number one, you get Belichick, but you look at his staff and some of these guys, Freddie Kitchens and some of these other ones, and, the people that he's got, working from Lombardi to others, and you're saying, okay, this is pretty well put together. This is not some guy that, a pastime he's looking to get out of town in June. So, he had all that stuff set up. And, like you said, maybe the greatest coach ever. And then the first thing that hit me was you look at your schedule. And, one of the best high school coaches in the state of Tennessee ever told me one time, he said, listen, sometimes it ain't about what you've got. It's about what everybody else has got. And, so when you start looking at that, it's like Noah said, that was a big thing there. And my thing was, hey, this might be a perfect storm. With this kind of guy, the players he's brought in, the schedule, there's no Miami, there's no Louisville, there's no Georgia Tech. In fact, I think the highest ranked team in the ACC by ESPN that they're going to play outside of Clemson is Duke at number 6. And so, you have that. But then Andrew sold me a lot. We talked quite a bit. And, Andrew, he volunteers it, like I said, and he's just not blowing smoke when he says it to me all the time. And that's like when he leaves, he said, hey, this is serious. Belichick's serious. Well, he's doing serious, and I'm really impressed of what he's doing. So, I've not seen anything yet to make me think, man, hold on, let's cool our heels here and see what happens. Take a step back, catch a breath. There's not been any of that. It's just you hear more and more good stuff.
Let me throw one thing on to you guys I'd like for you to hit on before we do end this thing. Noah, you saw them in person last year. any potential Indiana vibes if this thing starts to build from last year? A lot of similarities. Mm-hmm. He brought 13 players from JMU, and he completely changed the culture overnight to the point where my brother's an Indiana grad, and he actually became optimistic during the course of the season. But the Indiana-Ohio State game, for example, that was as important to him as the Indiana-Purdue basketball game.
Well, Noah, what do you think about it? You can start with you.
But when I first took the job and I first started researching this team, the first thing I saw was that there's 70 new players. That was the first thing. So the first thing my mind went to was, okay, we don't know what's going to happen. What I thought to myself was the best case scenario is Indiana. The worst case scenario is Florida State. Now I'm looking more at the schedule, right? As I continue to look through the schedule and look through the roster and look how the team is made up and look with everything that Belichick has on his staff, as I continue to do more research, I looked at the schedule, and I think that was the biggest thing. So I think that is why it leans more towards the side of this could be an Indiana team than this could be a Florida State team. With their schedule, there's no chance that they play like Florida State did last year. With their schedule, if anything, it's going to be closer to Indiana than it is to anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting point, man. I hadn't really thought about that, AJ, the Indiana angle. I really hadn't even gone through my mind because, again, with what they were able to do last year, I enjoyed watching them last year. I really did. I thought it was arguably best story in college football. But
an edgy, no BS coach, just like Belichick.
Yeah. I mean, I could. The only reason I have and again, this is my own fault, and people are going to call me negative, call me whatever you want. Again, I've been going to Carolina games for a long time.
All the time.
It doesn't matter. I could come on here and say they're going to go 10-2, and people would say I'm a negative individual. I just have such a hard time separating old Carolina from what this new Carolina might be, because again, this new Carolina, there might be a new Carolina, but there isn't right now. So until it happens, I'm always going to be, I always lean with the football program more on the pessimistic side. I don't think you can really blame me. I know a lot of Carolina fans that are like that as well, they're in my family or people I've talked to. They're like, hey, like, I think Bill Belichick can do something nice here, but until I see it with my own two eyeballs, I'm going to have a hard time like projecting it and believing it. So now, do I think they are in a better situation under a guy like Belichick with this completely new revamped roster, like Noah's talked about, to do something like that? Absolutely. And I think in this NIL transfer portal era, you have a better opportunity now to have those massively quick turnarounds than you did before NIL, obviously. So I think it could happen, and I think it is an intriguing thing, but Noah's also got me like he's right about the schedule. Like it kind of lines up. So if you're going to make a run maybe and get hot, like you could do it this year, especially after that Clemson game. We got the bye week on either side. Like the more you guys talk, you're making me lean towards it could happen. But no, I'm going to be the negative, pessimistic Carolina person over here and say, no, I think the ceiling here is like 9-3. I just think they're going to slip up. They're going to lose to Clemson. I think they're going to lose a game they maybe shouldn't lose. And we've already gone through that. So no, maybe it will. For all the Carolina fans watching, though, I hope it happens, because if any fan base on the football side deserves something like that to happen to them, I think Indiana probably felt the same way. It'd probably be North Carolina. So who knows? Well, what do you think about it, David?
I think it's hold on.
Oh, you're on mute. You're muted now, David. You were good. You were good.
Why in the world would anybody trust me? I can't even work the mute and unmute. So anyway, I think it's a great comparison because, you had a coach that came in, built confidence, and Andrew said the personalities, obviously. But, once again, you look at that schedule and, they stayed away from Oregon. They stayed away from Penn State. They stayed away from those type of teams. They played two great teams all year long and really didn't have a chance to win either one. Ohio State was the first one. But that was good enough, to get them to the playoff and to go deep into the season undefeated. To me, the big one was Michigan. They beat Michigan 20-15. And, in watching that game, I think a lot of us had interest about that. I had as much interest about Michigan, but Michigan was declawed a little bit. They'd lost so much. And you felt like Indiana had a shot in that game because of that. But it was an Indiana team who believed, and an Indiana team, like you said, for basically the whole existence of its football program would say, okay, this is the year that we're going to beat Michigan, and they could never do it. And they really found a way to do it. And because the winning breeds confidence, and then won, and they're not going to be squeaky clean going through late in the season, especially with Clemson on there. But guys, they can win games, and you start winning 2, 3, 4 games in a row, and it really builds. And then, by the end of the year, when you get into, to me, the 2 big games, North Carolina State and Duke, to me, will dictate the way this season goes. They could win and have a really good season. They could lose both. You get a bad feel, a bad taste in your mouth. They don't finish strong, and there we go. So, but I think winning games in several in a row and coming in hot going into those final 2 could flip a season. You could really feel good about it at the end against the 2 biggest rivals.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
It's really not just Bill Belichick either. I know I hit on Super Bowl winning head coach. It's the staff around him. It's Michael Lombardi running the program. It's Freddie Kitchens, a former NFL head coach, running the offense. It's Steve Belichick running the defense. It's Mike Prefer, a former NFL special teams coordinator, running your special teams. So it's really not just a one-man show with Belichick. It's everybody around him as well. Jamie Collins is your linebackers coach, a former Pro Bowl linebacker in the NFL. We know Andrew Simpson loves being coached by a guy like that, who's been in that position, who's done that before. So I think it's the staff around him as well.
Yeah, the fact that they have
about David Cutcliffe earlier, Andrew, and to go to Noah's point, when David Cutcliffe was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee under Phil Fulmer, he was the hammer. Wasn't Phil Fulmer. Cutcliffe was the hammer on those great teams. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, when Cutcliffe was on the staff at Tennessee, they never lost to Georgia. When he went to Ole Miss, they never beat Georgia. And then after he got fired, he came back. They never lost to him again. And I know a lot of players, guys that played there, and they'll talk about the staff, but they'll say particularly Cutcliffe was the hammer on that team. He was the guys that got everybody's attention. Kirby Smart was like that, as great as Saban was. Kirby Smart was like that at Alabama. So there's a lot of coaches and staff members outside the head coach that set the tone.
To Noah's point, the fact they have a special teams coordinator, that's NFL stuff. They have it in college. That's part of the 33rd team that we hear about. The 33rd team isn't a suggested on-field performance. It's the entire operation. It's every T crossed, every I dotted, and we have seen that for sure. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I am as interested and excited about covering this as I've ever covered anything. This is my 30th college football season I'm starting. My first game was the biggest loss in Carolina history. They were showing highlights of it yesterday in the football center. I pointed to Noah. I said, you see all that ancient video over there? Yeah, my fat rear was in the press box covering that game, first one I ever covered. Mac Brown told me in his office in 2019 that one mistake he made he would love to have back was kick the field goal and not try to score a touchdown there, go up 20-3, and maybe Carolina football is different. Maybe he never leaves because they would have been in the Alliance, which became the BCS, which became the CFP. So I'm as excited now as I was then in 1996 because I cannot wait to see what this is all about because I don't know. And then it's going to be a whole hell of a lot of fun documenting it, chronicling what happens here, and doing so with this historic head coach choosing to do this right in front of us. What a time for Noah to go from covering the national champions to now covering this. At this stage in your career, it's a blessing for you, and it's a blessing for us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Man, y'all got me believing. I might switch my prediction. 11-1, lose to Clemson, beat him in the ACC title game in the rematch, and go win the national championship.
By the way, I'm saying a lot of fun regardless of what happens. Because I love this story. I know people get when I say it.
You actually brought me back down to earth a little bit, AJ, because you reminded me of the first game you covered, and I was like, God, that's Carolina football. But Noah and David had me like,
that was the landmine.
Had me believing. I was like, man, they might run the table.
Ball over the middle. Octavius Barnes, who by the way has a Final Four ring, admitted he ran the wrong route. He cut the wrong way. Antoine Harris, a Raleigh, North Carolina product, picks it off, runs 100 yards for a touchdown. It changed everything. Mm-hmm. That club was head of the Alliance. They were 6-0. That was the best defense in America. They held Florida State to 170 yards in Tallahassee.
That's the landmine you talked about, AJ.
The whole defense was loaded with NFL guys. If they win that and they go to the BCS, maybe they're a more confident team next year when they play Florida State in Judgment Day, and maybe the program is just a little bit different, and Mac never leaves. And if Mac did not leave, he would have won a title at Carolina. He would have changed the course of history there.
That's not a bad shout.
Different topic for a different day, but that was my first game, and I'm as excited right now as I was then.
Yeah, knowing David had me believe, and AJ brought me back down to earth a little bit. He reminded me of what has happened in the past. So I'm gonna stick with 8-4. I was gonna switch to 11-1 ACC title national championship game appearance. But
you were gonna start the "We Want Ohio State" chant, right? Just
we want Ohio State. Yeah. We want them. Bring them
Go
on.
Go to the horseshoe and roll them in December, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. Just bring. Carolina. We don't care who we play. We'll beat anybody. Yeah, it's. Guys, get involved in the comments. We're going to wrap this show up. It's been about an hour and a half. We've been rolling on this. We've had Seth on here. We've had AJ not on here. We've had AJ appear magically, and then we've had Seth's computer die on us too. So it's been a very eventful show. We appreciate everybody who's stuck with it. If you've made it this far, I've already told people to do this. Make sure you get involved in the comments. Let us know. Get your regular season predictions in. Do you agree with me and Noah and AJ and David, or are you looking at it differently? Do you think Carolina's going to win less games, or you think they're going to run the table like I almost just believed in a second ago? We want to hear from you guys in the comments below. But it really enjoyed it, guys. Appreciate y'all hopping on. Make sure I said it earlier too. Make sure you go check out the podcast AJ and Noah did a couple of days ago. That was Noah's first appearance. Did a fantastic job. Another fantastic job on this one, and he'll be featured on here heavily as we dive into this season. And you guys know where to find David. David's all over the boards on the basketball side, and I'm sure we'll have some more basketball content coming out too, right, AJ? We're not just going to be talking about football all the time, right? We'll have some basketball stuff coming too, right?
It's Kai and Evans week. With Friday, we got the podcast.
Sure, we got to bang that podcast out. You're right.
Next week is James Brown week. We're going to one of the few returning players. So yeah, we do it a different player every week, man. Basketball all the time. Yeah. Grant Hughes got an interview with James Brown. And we're running that piece Monday, and he talks about it gaining 25 pounds. It's a damn good piece.
That's fantastic.
So people are going to want to James Brown week. Yeah, it might be the best article we run in the series. It's
That's
James
fantastic.
Brown.
That's fantastic, man. That's why you come on.
And by the way, and he feels good because he gained 25 pounds, right?
Yeah, I bet he does. Probably feeling like the man right now.
You got what I just slid in there? I know David does.
I would ask you, my first question would have been, did he really have a beef with Michael Jackson?
And on that note, we're going to wrap this podcast up, right?
That's our landmine for the podcast right there.
That's the landmine. We ended on the very, very appropriate way to end this one right here. But before we head out, just one more thing. Head on over to our website, Tar Heel 24/7. Like AJ just plugged some great content out. Come join our awesome community. Great time to do so. So, yeah, we hope to see y'all over there. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Noah Weiskopf. He's been Andrew Jones. He's been David Sisk. Appreciate y'all watching this special Roundtable prediction show. Make sure you like, make sure you share, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.